I believe that public knowledge should absolutely be shared, and I want to share with you today the best things to look for and consider, like the best questions to ask when you're getting a job and when you're looking for one. Because I have had a lot of different jobs throughout the years for different reasons. Some of them were student jobs, so you're kind of not supposed to stay there for a long time. A lot of them will also fixed term contracts, which I think is nice. Like if you're not ready for a permanent contract, if you just want to try different things, maybe you're still young, maybe you're looking for yourself, or maybe you just don't want to tie yourself to something, which is understandable. Sometimes, like, it was just a job that I had before this one was a maternity leave, so for somebody, so I stayed there for 7 months. I also had some permanent positions that I did not enjoy and like, but regardless of that, I am sure that if you're looking for a job, and especially if you're a young person and you're just asking yourself, like, what exactly matters, what I should be looking for, because everybody knows that salary is important, but there's just so much more than this. And I really wish I knew this before, and I learned it from my experience, so I know that it's going to be incredibly useful to you. Hi everybody, I am Violetta, and I am obsessed with making lists. I'm obsessed with data. I'm obsessed with collecting information, and I swear the more I live, the more I become like that, which actually comes very handy because you kind of track everything, and I analyze a lot. And I think that quality actually helps me talk about some stuff like corporate, like relationships. I personally really like that, and I find it very useful, and this is what I go on YouTube for very often, for some kind of useful information. So let's start with the corporate. It's very important to know what to ask for and what type of questions to ask as you're being interviewed and as you're signing the contract, because as I said, if you never worked before, if you're still young, or maybe if you're changing industries, you kind of always asking yourself these questions, and then you go on Google, you try to look up information, and honestly, it's like so random, and it can easily, not so easily be applied to you. So, because this is what I used to do. I'm like, okay, I'm starting this new position, I'm gonna look up what are the best questions to ask, and they are just so generic, it literally doesn't help. And honestly, asking the right questions before you sign your contract could change the whole course of your career path, at least for this precise experience. And like, this is the whole point, to make sure your experience is the best thing that you're looking for, that your contract is the best. So then even if something goes wrong, everything is already in your contract, so they basically can't tell you much. For this video, I'm making 3 main parts. So the first part is what to look for before you start the interviewing phase. Second part is what to look for during the interviewing phase, and what kind of questions to ask and what things to consider. And the third part is just more of my personal tips, but also coming from professional experience. Before starting the job, first of all, let me tell you, you need to be prepared for the interview. Look up all the infos before the interviewing phase. And there are a lot of things to consider. The first one for me is the location, how far the company is from you. Obviously, it depends if you work in remotely versus if you work in the office. If you work in the office or hybrid, the commute is very important. I had a job already almost a year ago. I only stayed there for 2 months. It was a temporary job. That was like an hour 15 away from me by subway, which means that every day I would spend almost 3 hours on public transportation, something that I hate by definition. I know it's good to have public transportation. I still absolutely hate it. And I was not paid during those hours. So thankfully it was a hybrid job, and the team really liked me and they trusted me, so they let me work from home a lot. But I would usually go there, let's say 3 days a week, which means that it's 6 hours of unpaid labor and unhappy time. Unhappy because you're on a subway, standing, sweating, tired. You don't want this for yourself. So make sure you look that up. The company size. Are you applying for a startup versus a bigger company? Because there are very crucial differences. Once again, I'm talking from a personal experience. Like, if yours is different, first of all, I'd like to hear about it because I'm always curious. But this is mine. Let's start with a startup, and I'm gonna write a little bit from my notes. So the first one, I would say, in the startup companies, once again, coming from personal experience, I felt like I had more impact. I felt like I could move things, adjust things, change things, and it was usually seen as a good thing, which I personally appreciated. Also, when you work at startups, usually it's more work. It's a smaller company. They still building, they still expanding, they're probably very ambitious. So they're gonna expect a lot from you. Very often, no HR, no manager. Once again, it depends on the size of the company. Some startups are like, oh yeah, with this 100 of us. Oh wow, that's not even a startup anymore. I work for really small companies and we're talking like 5 people, and we're talking 10 people. If you're somebody who likes rules and who likes, I'd say, I don't know, certain type of discipline, and somebody who likes to be helped and surrounded by people, that might not be for you. It was kind of a plus for me. I'm a very independent person. I'm autonomous in the way that I work. So I appreciated not being micromanaged, but rather, hey, I know how to do my job. Once the training is done, I'm good at it. Let's just follow up here and there, but I don't need you. Which means that, yeah, you absolutely got to be autonomous. If this is not in your blood, then maybe startups are not for you. Also, you need to be eager to learn really fast, because once again, they're usually ambitious. They don't really have time to slow down. They don't even have enough people to train you. So they're like, go, go, go. Let's absolutely do that. This is what you're supposed to learn in the next couple of months. If you don't perform well, they might not keep you. And the last point for startups, usually lower salary. Once again, it's a small company. They just don't have enough budget for everything. So I feel like startups could be really appropriate for like fixed term positions, like just the one that I had 7 months. Honestly, I would have stayed longer. I still quite enjoyed it, and I worked remotely, so that was really good. But yeah, it's unfortunate. That's okay. I'll find a better one. But yeah, the salary might not be incredibly high. Also, if you really like the job and if you stay there for a while, maybe 2 years from now, the salary might be considerably higher, because maybe the performance is going to be really good. But once again, it depends on how much you trust the company. This is not a guarantee. They cannot tell you ahead of time. Versus the bigger companies, so less impact. Very obviously, there's going to be a lot of people in the same team, in the same department. So they kind of don't expect just you to do everything, which might also be good. Like, I'm thinking about my experience at Louis Vuitton, which was years ago. And that's exactly how it was. Meaning that they're not gonna expect too much from you. You're not here to make a change. You're not here to make a move. You're just here to do what you're supposed to do. So if you see somebody who likes to have that kind of impact, that's not for you. If you're more like, I just want a job, I just want to make sure I get it done by the end of the day, that's interesting. At least that's how it was for me in Louis Vuitton. And I know that it's not just my case, like it's not the only big company I work for. There's gonna be an HR department, and you're definitely gonna have a manager or even several managers, which is good. You're like, okay, I know who to ask for, but there could also be a little bit, in my experience, more micromanagement, because you simply have more people who are there to supervise you. They are being paid to supervise you, so it's not just you. So I know that I'm uncomfortable having somebody behind my back all the time, knocking on the door like, did you do this? Did you get this done? I don't like it. It doesn't mean that it's gonna be like that, but just have in mind that, oh my God, what's that not? That a lot of managers, unfortunately, like that. A lot of people don't understand that being a manager is not a promotion. Like, becoming a manager is not being promoted. Being a manager is a state of mind. It's a personality trait. It's being responsible for a group of people, partially for their mental well-being too, because these are still real people, and partially professionally, making sure that the performance is good, people keep track of what needs to be done, they get the job done. Do not become a manager if you do not have this personality trait. Do something else with your life. Go work in sales, I beg you. My experience, which is funny, but I see bigger companies tend to work slower, because once again, they had so much time to build this industry that today they're moving at a slower pace, or might not necessarily be at a slower pace, but there are more people. You know, there's a saying, something like, if you go alone, you go faster, but if you walk together, you go further. That's exactly the case, which means that daily you might not be working in such a fast-paced environment. because it's just more people. So they're like, you get your job done, the other person gets their part done, and then collectively it's more things get done. It just completely makes sense. Not necessarily, but still very often it could be a higher salary. Once again, it depends. Do not come after me saying like, oh my God, I applied for the job. I can know everything. I'm coming from my experience. It could be a slightly higher salary because, you know, once again, they just have no money. I personally love to read reviews on Glassdoor because people don't write things for nothing. People usually write things on Glassdoor because either it was really good and they just want to share the experience and let other people know, or because it was really bad and once again they want people know and they want to express their anger or frustration. People usually write good reviews. I don't think people would be lying. Like, I don't see why people would take time out of the day to lie. So things that I usually look for is, do people mention some issues? Is there a big, I don't know, maybe a turnover, or maybe people always suggest to like improvement points. So this is something that could be improved. Maybe they said something wrong with their manager. Keep that in mind. It could always come useful. Look up your manager on LinkedIn. I don't think it's being sneaky. I think it's completely normal. It's just LinkedIn is supposed to be like a network site. LinkedIn is really so weird. Like, I'm not saying it's bad, but just the way people communicate on LinkedIn, it's like literally, yesterday my mother died. This is how I got this new job. I'm like, okay. I mean, I only use like for purely professional purposes. I'm not gonna publish that, but you know, no judgment. If you talk on LinkedIn, like, you just keep doing that. But look up your manager. See what they did in the past. See how qualified they are. Maybe some other people wrote reviews about them. It's still gonna give you an idea. And then when you're gonna talk to your future manager later, you can bring up some points. Once again, people love when you talk about them. People love when you know things about them. They're like, damn, yeah, they took the time to research and prepare. It just makes you look professional and like very interested in that, even if you maybe not. The job offer several times. I know that 2025, really hard to find a job. So when people look for it, and I'm completely guilty, even though I don't feel so, people just applied like, okay, the title looks all right, it's in my city, the salary is fine, I'm just gonna apply, because people don't have the time to read everything. Also because recruiters today, they're like, oh, could you please get this assessment test and then a personality test and make a 2-minute video? We ain't got no time for that. We ain't got no time for I'm never gonna do that. What the hell? Why should I take time out of my day to do stuff for free for a company that didn't even hire me yet? Like, I would love to talk about that during the interviewing phase. You HR, we're not going to be doing that. But still, read the job offer several times, because sometimes they say, okay, this is mandatory to know how to use that program, or to have that type of, why am I yelling? To have that type of experience. Now I'm not talking loud enough. To have that type of experience. The salary is fixed. It is not negotiable to work remotely. It's important to know these things because you need to know your subject. Part 2, during the interviewing phase, what are we doing? Once again, I'm reading from my notes because I just wanted to make it smooth and interesting for you guys, and also helpful. First things I wrote down is go through all the tasks and projects. So I'm meaning like daily tasks or some monthly projects that you're going to be potentially accomplishing. You need to know what you're going to be doing daily. Maybe they're going to mention things that you absolutely hate and cannot stand. The job probably is not for you, or it's going to be really, really hard to go to work. So you should consider that. And maybe on the contrary, some projects are so amazing, you're like, oh my God, that was not even mentioned in the job offer, but now that you're telling me this, I'm really interested. And then once you know something about this project and you already know that you qualified for it, you can link it to your skills and to your resume. Like, thank you so much for mentioning that. Actually, I had a very similar experience at this previous job, yada yada yada, and you just tell them everything. They like when they find links between what they just said and your own personal experience. Do that, please. I also love to ask, what does a typical day at this job looks like? Because it really gives you an insight. And if it's a good manager, they're also supposed to know everything about it. I'd say I usually don't ask the HR because they don't know much, but the team manager will be able to like, okay, this is what it looks like. Like, this is the time when we arrive to work. Usually between 9 to 11, we take meetings and then we answer mails or something. Like, it's also important for you to know because it's going to be your everyday life. 5 freaking days out of 7. Which is just scandalous. But nobody asked us, so we just kind of have to live with that. at least for now. How is my performance gonna be evaluated? Once again, asking your manager, because are they gonna be directly evaluating you? Is there even an evaluation? It doesn't exist in every single company, but still very often it does. Negotiate your salary right now. I want to see you do it right away, because you just know damn well that if you don't do it now, even if they promise you a raise within the next year or two, the raise will be small. If you stay in the same company, these days at least, the raise is never going to be huge. It's going to be a little bit here, a little bit there. Maybe you're okay with that if you really like the company and you want to stay there for years. I have a friend who's been working for the same company for, I don't know, like 10 years already or something. I don't remember. Long time. And good for her. She really likes it. She really appreciates it. I couldn't do that because I couldn't care less. So you need a good base salary. Right now is the time to negotiate it. I don't really want to talk about negotiation techniques too much because I don't really like that part, and I feel like there's a lot of information about it online. Look it up. Also negotiate work from home now. If that's important to you, if they work hybrid and you want to work remotely more most of the week or something, you need to do that now. These things are 100% negotiable. Sometimes the HR will tell you like, no, I'm really sorry, this is how it is. But if that matters to you, and if you're looking for a permanent position, you cannot be like, oh, okay, whatever, I'll accept it. You're going to be unhappy. So yeah, you could accept that job in the meantime, but for the next job that you're going to be staying at, for a longer period of time, negotiate it. Also, always ask about all other bonuses. Let's say you're supposed to relocate for this job. Ask for them to pay for everything. They should cover the relocation fees, and they should give you a relocation bonus. I feel like this is more for like high executives, but it is still very important because there are so many different bonuses depending on the job. I didn't just fart. It was my stool, okay? Because there are so many bonuses that you could ask for depending on the job. Again, you need to be doing that. Like if you come up with ideas, just write them down and give it a shot. Usually when I talk to both the manager and the HR, I love to ask them questions, and they all love when you ask the question is, what do you like about your position and working for this company? First of all, once again, people like to talk about themselves and their personal experiences, and it's going to be helpful to you because sometimes they'll say, oh, I've been there for 5 years. I really appreciate it. We have a great team spirit, and my manager is easily available and reachable. These are good things to notice. If they're not really crazy about it, that could also be a red flag to you. Ask them if your position and things that I expect from you is supposed to be worked in a more like independent way, or if you should be working more with a team of people. It really depends. First of all, it depends on what you like. Do you like to work with people? Do you like to work closely with people? Or you're more like, okay, I'm just going to do my thing. Ask them. You need to know how much you're going to be communicating with your other colleagues. And then maybe if that's the case, you should also ask your manager to meet those colleagues. So you could ask them some questions, see if you have more or less a professional personality match. That's also important. Ask about your training program. How long? Who is it going to be done by? I skipped this question for the job that I have right now because I just urgently needed a job. And I kind of regret because my training didn't really go that well. I was really unhappy. I was always trying to reach my manager and tell her like, hey, I'm sorry, but you're just not being present enough for me. I need more of you. I am very independent in my work day to day. But at the beginning, when I arrive at the company, for the first month, I need you to make yourself available to me. I have a lot of questions and I need you. Also, my manager doesn't work in the same city as me, so it's harder to reach. So it's very important because you know that it's going to show you so much about the job. The previous job that I had with the manager that I had meetings on Friday, she was so good with my training. She planned and detailed everything for the first 3 weeks. I even had a coffee time with every single colleague, which honestly was really good because at least I knew who I could talk to about certain questions, and I also immediately knew everybody's name. Ask your manager, what is your communication style? Can I easily message you? Is that okay with you? Are you an active listener? Are you an active communicator? That's very important because I personally am, so I cannot work with people who are not the way that I am. This is once again my current manager. We just don't communicate in the same style. I feel like she's always talking in blurred lines. Like you ask her a yes and no question, and she just goes deep and talks for hours, and every single meeting that we have lasts at least an hour and a half, like nobody's listening. I do not like that. I like people who are very concise and like, okay, in 2 minutes we're done, because I don't have energy for more than that. Possible growth and promotion is very important, once again, especially if you want to stay at the company for a long time. Am I gonna be potentially promoted? Is this something that's done in your company, or maybe you prefer to hire externally? If yes, could you give me some examples? Maybe you, as my manager or my HR, you were promoted. Same for the growth. How can this position potentially grow? Am I going to be having more responsibilities? Switching teams, and I'm talking long term. Be careful with that question, like with the way you ask it, because you don't want to seem like you're not interested in the position. But I know that I had an interview sometime this summer, and the girl told me what people usually like about our company is most of the time, 2 years into the company, you can easily switch the teams. We actually allow you to do so and encourage you. If you're somebody who likes hybrid jobs, hybrid not like work from home, but hybrid like doing different things and maybe learning new skills, I think that could be a nice thing. I personally like it, and I know I would just get bored to death doing the same thing all the time. And also something that I like to say is ask about potential team buildings and afterworks. So 2 different things. Team buildings, at least in France, they all paid, so they cannot force you to have a team building like outside of your working hours. So it's either going to be the same as, like, let's say any random Wednesday, or maybe something offsite, but you're supposed to be paid for that. Do they have them? How often? It's still important, because maybe they all go to Mallorca once a year and you're like, I don't want to do that, which I understand. And the afterworks. Oh my God, the afterworks. I don't know how culture is in other countries around afterworks, but in France, people love that. Oh my God. Especially with startup companies. Oh my God. And it's just something I can't stand. Like, you cannot force personal relationships on people who are purely colleagues. Like, I am not even gonna be remembering your names several years from now. And it's not because I don't like you, but it's just because I only see you as my colleagues. It does happen that you become friends with your colleagues eventually. Still be careful, don't always share. But you cannot force this on me. I'm here to make my ends meet, to pay for my groceries and rent and occasional travels. I am not here to make friends. And I had an interview at a company, such a red flag, because they basically told me, oh my God, first of all, we don't count hours. I do. It's on my contract, and I want to be paid for those hours. And almost every single day we go out for drinks. We're like that. I do not want this. So you guys work until 7 freaking p.m. and then at 7 freaking p.m. you go out and have drinks. Also, I don't really like alcohol. I don't drink much of this. I'm not interested in that. I don't want to be spending my time doing that with you. If I want to have a drink, I'm gonna call my friends and be like, hey guys, let's go for a drink. Okay, done with the professional part. This is just gonna be the last part, the third part. It's just, I don't know, like my tips on corporate and how to survive it, because it's really not easy, and I'll talk more about it because I just think it's very important. I think there's not enough information around it. I think there's a lot of lie around it. There's a lot of recruiters who lie about the job and then you discover it later. First tip: most companies do not look for strong personalities unless you're applying for a CEO position, which you probably aren't, but I'm just saying. And I've been struggling a lot with it because I do have a strong personality. I am a leader. I like to change things. I like to plan ahead of times. Corporate is just not for me. I've known it my whole life. I do not plan to stay in corporate my whole life, but however, for as long as I am doing it, I want to make it just as easy as possible. But make sure that you stay humble, but still confident. So you're confident in your skills, but you are not here to make radical changes. They just not gonna accept you. Tip number 2, do not try to change too much. If you arrive at a company and you see that a lot of things are just not functioning the way they should be, and you're like, oh my God, I should optimize it, you can give it a try. Give it a smooth try. Talk to your manager a little bit, see how they feel about it. If you feel like it's not welcome and they're not open about it, stop trying. It's because they like the way things are. Once again, it makes me just so mad because I'm not like that. Because if we can make our life easier, then we should absolutely do that. A lot of people are not about improving things. They are about settling down. And I know that's frustrating, but just let it go. Be nice to your manager and to your colleagues. Do not be overly friendly, but still ask them random questions. How was your weekend? What did you do for holidays? So just like here and there. Don't overshare. Just ask them. You need to make sure you're always nice, you're always polite. Once again, I don't really like do that because I'm like, we're just colleagues, but you have to, especially in a company who likes afterworks and stuff like that. It's just part of it. Maybe you naturally like it, good for you. I'm not, so I struggle. That's why I always mention that. And the very last thing, something to remember for as long as you work any corporate job. Corporate is not about performing, it is purely about pretending. What does it mean? It means that it doesn't matter how hard you work, it doesn't matter what kind of results you get. The only thing they want you to do is to pretend that you're doing something, pretend that you're busy. It doesn't mean that you never get the job done. That's not what I'm saying. But like for me, I like to get the job done well. I like to plan. I like to make progress. This is not the case for most people. They just like to pretend that they're doing something, especially at bigger companies, because it's just harder to track. And that's it. That's all I have for today in corporate. Stay safe, guys. It is really not easy. I know how hard it is, and I really hope that that was useful to you. I definitely have more tips to give, so I'll come up with something later. But I just wanted to get it off my chest. Also know that I'm not trying to make this video sounding like somebody perfect who slayed her career. No, I hated most of the jobs that I had, and I really wish I came up with a list like this before, because it really helps you prioritize. Know that this is still just a job, and know how to navigate it throughout your career.